Good afternoon. I can't tell you how awesome it is to see this room full on a Saturday afternoon, so give yourselves a hand. Welcome to the Allen County Public Library. I'm Kurt Witcher, the Director of Special Collections, and it's my honor, my real distinct honor, to welcome you here this afternoon to an amazing program. Each one of the segments of this program could be 90 minutes alone. That's how expert these individuals are. That's what wonderful information they have to share. And that's how important these topics are. Alas, we don't have that kind of time. So I'm going to go through quickly the run of show and then get to these wonderful individuals who have committed so much of their life, so much of their research and their time, and then so much of their expertise in being with us today. From Hollywood to Fort Wayne, Paul Revere Williams, Architect to the Stars. And the subtitle for the program is A Unique Black History Month Program. On the official banner, further down, is something I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention, because I really like this. 3 personal stories connected by history, architecture, and vision. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that like wonderful? So we have a really full agenda this afternoon. I want to start just by thanking the sponsors to this event. The African American Genealogical Society of Fort Wayne. Oh my goodness, what a great organization that helps people find their stories and helps forward face and shed new light on the story of African Americans, a story that is often hidden in the general history and certainly hidden in the legacy history. So the African American Genealogical Society of Fort Wayne played a substantial role. Oh my goodness, our friends up north, the Auburn Duesenberg Automotive Museum. Oh my gosh, what a gem for Northeast Indiana. We hear so many wonderful things about them. And you know the surprising thing? I say this with sort of a little smile on my face. They're all true. All those amazing things are true. So kudos to ACD for participating in this. The Indiana Landmarks Black Heritage Preservation Program is a sponsor of this. The good work that they're doing to forward face the importance of Black heritage in Indiana. Again, not often recognized legacy-wise, but more and more recognized. So thank you for that. And then Arch. What can we say about Arch in Fort Wayne that would be shorter than like an hour for all the great things that they have done and continue to do in this community? They've got some great leaders of the organization, both present and past, and they do so much to preserve historic buildings and historic places and help that be a thread of the story of Fort Wayne and Allen County. So, oh my goodness, what a great team of collaborators we have for this program. And again, I'm just humbled and honored to be a part of that really great team. And my part is introducing the program and welcoming you and just kind of going through quickly the run of show, and then we will want to get this going. Our first presenter will be Danielle Baldwin. She's with the Auburn Duesenberg Automotive Museum. She's going to present Architect to the Stars, Paul Revere Williams, and E.L. Cord, founder of the ACD Automotive Company. The wisdom and knowledge and information that Danielle will share will be fascinating. Our second presenter, Paul Revere Williams, the man and the architect, Connie Haas-Zuber. I've known Connie in many different roles over her career. We won't say, Connie, how long we've known each other, because we're both only 39, so you can do the math on that. Our third presenter, Paul Revere Williams, Breaking Barriers and Building Dr. Theodore and Beatrice Borders home in Fort Wayne. Our own, I like to say our own because she's Fort Wayne, she's Allen County, she's African American genealogy. Our own Roberta Williams will present. Roberta Ridley, not Paul Revere Williams, not Roberta Williams. Roberta Ridley. I'm sure you could make it work anyway, Roberta. So our format is a presentation from each of them, about 15 minutes-ish, and then a Q&A session toward the end. And we're going to just enjoy really an enlightening presentation, or I should say presentations, all wrapped into one. So, Danielle?
Thank you, Kirk. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Danielle Baldwin. I'm the Director of Development and Membership at the Auburn Duesenberg Automobile Museum. And I'm honored to be here today, and I'm also here with my colleague, Madison Naughton. So she's our Collections and Educations Manager. And really, before we begin, I want to acknowledge the collaboration here made from this program that really helped make this program possible. And the lecture is presented in partnership, as Kirk also said, the Indiana Landmarks, Black Heritage Preservation Program, the Fort Wayne Committee, the African American Genealogy Society of Fort Wayne, ARC, the Allen County Public Library Genealogy Center, and of course the Auburn Duesenberg Automobile Museum. It's really meaningful when organizations are able to come together and tell a fuller story, and we're grateful to be a part of this collaboration. At our museum, we spend time every day telling the story of these automobiles, the engineering, the innovation, and the designs that really defined an era. And so today, during Black History Month, we reflect on the life and legacy of Paul Revere Williams, an architect whose work shaped of the most influential spaces in the 20th century. Paul Williams designed more than 3,000 buildings over the course of his career. In 1923, he became the first African-American member of the American Institute of Architects, a milestone achieved during a period when professional barriers were firmly in place. Yet his career was not simply defined by being the first, but sustained by excellence. Among his clients were prominent business leaders, industrialists. On this slide you see here, we actually have E.L. Cord, featured on the cover of Time magazine, photographed beside one of his automobiles. E.L. Cord was the driving force behind the Auburn Automobile Company, the story we preserve every day at our museum. Under his leadership, the company experienced significant growth, and we maintain a permanent gallery dedicated to his life and his influence today. Within that gallery are preserved scrapbook pages that feature Paul Williams' designed homes. So while Williams' architectural career extended far beyond the point of one client, there is documented, intangible connection within our institutional history today. This relationship is not just the center chapter of our museum's story, but it is actually an authentic one. It reminds us that innovation in the early 20th century was interconnected of automobile design, architectural design, and identity expressed throughout structure and engineering. It's at that intersection that today's story unfolds. So actually what we're looking at here is the architectural rendering of what would become Cordhaven. But this project not only began with a drawing, but with a phone call. In 1932, Paul received a call from E.L. Cord. E.L. Cord had recently acquired land in Beverly Hills, and he wanted Williams to survey it immediately. Williams attempted to postpone the visit by a day, but Cord actually insisted. Williams later wrote that he realized Cord worshipped prompt action. After reviewing the site, Cord asked how soon preliminary drawings could be delivered. Other architects had actually requested weeks and weeks. Williams answered, you know what, by 4 o'clock tomorrow, you can have it. And he delivered. So he worked through the night, presented the preliminary plans within 24 hours. This rendering represents the result of decisions, decisive exchange, preparation really meets opportunity. And it marked the beginning of one of the most ambitious residential commissions in Beverly Hills at that time. And what we see here, this is Cordhaven. It was completed between 1932 and 1933. On the left, what you'll see is the estate as guests would have approached it. The columned area, the formal entrance, the balanced composition, and on the right, we actually have the aerial view, which reveals the full scale of the property and the relationship to the surrounding area. Cordhaven covered approximately 32,000 square feet and included 16 bedrooms, 22 bathrooms. The interiors featured gold and silver fixtures, and a grand curved staircase, and a 2-story entrance supported by slender columns and inspired by a traditional East Coast architecture. It was not merely large, but it was composed. Cordhaven quickly became a sensation in Beverly Hills, and it really solidified Paul's reputation as a premier society architect. At that time, when African American professionals were often excluded from elite spaces, Paul was really defining them and designing them. We have limited surviving photos of Cordhaven, and this is one of them. This is actually the pool house. Even in black and white, you can see the refinement, the arched openings, the disciplined symmetry, the careful detailing, and you can notice how the leisure space mirrors and the architectural language of the main house of the residence that you can see. He was very intentional with his designs. Williams approached even auxiliary buildings with intention. Nothing was casual. Consistency in design elevated Cordhaven from impressive really to iconic at this point. And now we'll actually move inside. On the left, it's a formal library or sitting room, as you'll see, with wood-paneled walls, built-in shelving, a fireplace anchoring the space. And on the right, you actually see a music room with intricate wall paneling, layered textiles, and a grand piano positioned both as an instrument but as a statement. Cordhaven included 3 dining rooms, a ballroom, a billiard room, a solarium, and a shooting gallery, 2 hotel-sized kitchens, and an underground wine cellar that's secured with a vault-style door. The structure itself was a concrete, brick, and wood, but it was the materials and the finishes that really distinguished it. It was also important to remember the context. Paul was designing these spaces while navigating racial barriers that limited access and opportunity. It's actually documented that he trained himself to draw upside down across the table from his white client, so that way he didn't actually have to sit beside him during the racial segregation. And that's something to really think about, right? Of how intricate these drawings were, that he taught himself how to do that during that time. His response to exclusion was not retreat, but it was excellence. And on the left here, you'll actually see Paul standing in front of Cordhaven, shortly before it was demolished. In the center, you'll notice the commanding scale of the entrance of Cordhaven, but on the right, a 1936 Auburn automobile positioned prominently in front of the home. In the early 20th century, placing an expensive automobile visibly in front of the residence was actually intentional. The house and the car worked together to communicate success and innovation during that time. Architecture and automotive design were a part of the same visual language. E.L. Cord understood that, and so did Paul. Exactly 9 years after Cordhaven, in 1941, E.L. commissioned Williams again to go ahead and design another home for him. On the left here, you see Cordhaven as it once stood, and on the right, of course, you'll see as demolished, right? So as Cordhaven no longer stands, and in 1960, developers tore it down and divided it into the land into 13 parcels. People traveled far and wide from across the country to purchase those architectural fragments and fixtures. Even in destruction, its value was still recognized. Buildings can disappear, but influence really cannot. So exactly 9 years later, after Cordhaven, as I said, in 1941, E.L. commissioned Paul again, right? But this time it was to build and design the Circle L Ranch in Dyer, Nevada. On the left, we'll see an exterior view reflecting Williams' disciplined craftsmanship. In the center, it's the ranch gate, and on the right, it's the winter exterior of the residence. Williams designed the entire compound, the residence, the barns, the bunkhouse, the warehouse, and the supporting structures. Records indicate this was a 4-bedroom suite. He had built a library, extensive storage cellars, and a 3-car garage. It was not Cordhaven, but it demonstrated adaptability. Williams moved seamlessly between glamour and really practicality, between visibility and quiet endurance. Some of his buildings remain, and others, although have been lost, but his contribution to American architecture and expanding professional opportunity endured deeply in a segregated era, still endures today. During Black History Month, we honor not only the milestones, but his sustained excellence. Excellence that reshaped expectations, excellence that altered, really, the landscape, right? And so at this time, I'd like to introduce Connie Zuber, the volunteer with the Indiana Landmarks Black Heritage Preservation Program, Fort Wayne Committee, and former executive director at ARCH.
Just push the down arrow. Okay, oh, that. Okay, thank you. I know which button to push now, so I'm fine. And thank you, Danielle. We're going to move right on with the story of Paul Revere Williams. And I'm going to be talking about him as having the vision that unites these three stories that we're telling you today. From E.L. Cord with his entrepreneurship and his interest in technologies, and going through to the Borders family and what united him to them, which I'll try not to give away because we have Roberta to tell that story. So architect Paul Revere Williams is the man in the middle of this story, the heart of this aesthetic and cultural vision that attracted, among his thousands of other clients, these two with connections to Fort Wayne and Northeast Indiana. He was an up-and-coming architect, his career blossoming when he got E.L. Cord's commission in 1932. By 1953, when the Borders commissioned him to design their Fort Wayne home, he carried the prestige of many honors and significant awards and could point to thousands of designs built by his clients, mostly homes, but also commercial sites and institutional buildings like schools, churches, and hospitals. So let's get to know him and his work. Roll it. Okay. There we are. An essay he wrote that was published in the July 1937 issue of the American Magazine gives us a valuable overview of what made Paul Revere Williams tick, what motivated him, what he believed he was striving for and accomplishing. And I think these words ring true throughout his 50-year career. It's the story of what happened in 1912 when the successful young high school graduate set out in pursuit of his dream of becoming an architect. He had made a list of every architectural firm in Los Angeles and started applying for jobs. Here's the story from his essay. Quote, "I was turned away by would-be employers who, to my certain knowledge, needed help. At first, I could not understand, but gradually I came to realize that I was being condemned by my color. I passed through successive stages of bewilderment, inarticulate protest, resentment, and finally reconciliation to the status of my race. Eventually, however, as I grew older and thought more clearly, I found to my condition an incentive to personal accomplishment, an inspiring challenge. Without having the wish to show them, I developed a fierce desire to show myself. I wanted to vindicate every ability I had. I wanted to acquire new abilities. I wanted to prove that I, as an individual, deserved a place in the world." As a schoolboy, when he needed a job, he had ended up working as a newsboy. As a budding architect, he dealt with his immediate need for a job by noting on his list who turned him down with a smile and who with a frown. He revisited the architects who smiled the next week, bringing his portfolio with him. He was a talented artist and draftsman who had attended a high school known for its strong architectural program. He finished that round of visits with 3 job offers, the best one offering $3 a week and one offering no pay. He took the one for no pay because it was with the most prestigious firm. And by the end of his first week on the job, they had decided to pay him $3 a week. Williams believed that he and all the other black people who were succeeding in their jobs and professions at the time, were living examples who served as inspiration to other black people to have high aspirations and succeed as well. Oops. How do I go backwards? It should be this one. There. Okay. In 1894, when he was born, no one would have predicted how his life turned out. He was the second son of a couple who had moved to Los Angeles from Memphis, part of the Great Migration, one of the threads of it. His father had a fruit and vegetable stand, and his mother worked as a dressmaker after his father died of tuberculosis. Los Angeles had a very bad tuberculosis problem at this time. When she died, when Paul was 4, he and his brother went to separate foster families. They were able to maintain contact. Mother Clarkson, as he called her, saw little Paul's potential and supported it. He always had drawing supplies, and his education was important. His integrated high school's advisor recommended against becoming an architect because black people didn't have enough money to support an architect, and white people wouldn't hire him. And even family friends thought it unlikely to work. But Paul was determined. So after his high school graduation in 1912, he embarked on a decade of self-directed education and on-the-job training in architecture. He took classes at 5 different LA area art schools and worked for several different architectural firms, learning different aspects of the craft and making important professional contacts. And along the way, in 1917, he married Della Mae Givens, who's also pictured on this slide, a girl whom he had met in a Christian student group. In 1921 and 1922, his decade of preparation culminated in 3 important achievements. He was certified to practice architecture in the state of California. He became the first black member of the American Institute of Architects, and he opened his own practice. Wrong direction. There we are. In that decade of preparation, he had been busy professionally on his own behalf as well as for his employers, who had involved him in important projects. But on his own, he had been entering and had been recognized with awards in many architectural contests, seeing his work published and written about in trade publications, magazines, and newspapers. He was beginning to be known. This is a rendering and a floor plan of a lakeside home he designed and entered in a contest in 1918. He won a mention that year for his design. And this contest was sponsored by the White Pine series of architectural monographs. The next year in 1919, he entered the same competition with plans for a community center building. That design got special mention. Both designs were published in the monograph series. You'll notice that his theories and ideas about homes were already starting here. He's got the balance, the design, the prominent windows, the careful use of details like the arched window, and the floor plan shows a work area, a living area, a sleeping area. He had these theories, and he was already working them out. And this is obviously a Paul design. And one of the things he was doing at this time was becoming known as I'm going the wrong direction. What am I doing? There, as an advocate for small homes. He had also been entering contests for small home designs and had gained notice as a small home expert. His designs considered for small houses ranged from a low of 900 to a high of a little more than 3,000 square feet, which I think is a pretty good sized house personally, but in 1945, he pulled together many of his designs, which were back in demand due to wartime and looming post-war housing needs, and published 2 design books, complete with introductory essays explaining his views on small houses. This one is the Midwest, which I chose because we're in the Midwest. It is 1,667 square feet, which is pretty much right in the middle of the kinds of sizes he was designing for. Most of them were in the 1,200 to 1,800 square feet range. And this was from the Small Home of Tomorrow book. He loved gadgets, and he loved the newest things. And this plan shows his devotion to the concept of 3 areas. There's a living area, a sleeping area, and a working area. The working area is where you cook, and where you keep the cleaning stuff, and where you get to the garage and all that kind of stuff. And plus, it wraps the living area around windows looking out to the back terrace. Boy, it's hard to see this. Let me do that over here. I'll be able to see it better. Here is the dining room and the living room, and they wrap around, and there's the terrace out there. This is the master bedroom suite. It also gets to share the view of the terrace. And this is the sleeping area of the house. This is the living area of the house. And here's the working area of the house. He thought that was important, and he didn't want you to have to walk past the front door to get from one area to the other. I don't know why, other than maybe because that's where guests were, the public was, and you needed to be in your house and protected. Here's what the text on the page says. Distinctive contemporary styles will be created by the sensible use of local materials, pleasing proportions, and the careful placing of windows. Naturally, climate and new synthetic materials will also influence the final design of the future. The type of roof on this home is made possible by the effective use of insulating material. You'll notice it's a flat roof. The whole theory of storage space has changed from the dark closet age to the precision-designed reach-in type of wardrobe with transparent plastic trays so you can see at a glance what they contain. In this plan, consideration has been given to the out-of-doors as an extension of the living space. I like both those ideas, both the extension of the living space and being able to see what's in your closet. Wonderful idea. So I think we're very safe in agreeing with the people back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s and saying Paul Revere Williams was a master of home design. He got interviewed about it, and here's what he said in a newspaper interview in 1938. 4 walls and furniture do not guarantee a home in the highest sense of the word. Today, discriminating homeowners demand an abode which reflects their own personality, satisfies their own particular needs, as well as meeting the ordinary requirements of a well-built home. He went on and described how he studied how his clients lived and what they wanted and needed and designed the house to fit them. Honestly, that may not have been a unique philosophy. I can imagine pretty much every architect saying that to their clients. But he made it work because people came back. He got lots of praise for this. And I think it's because he had a package of skills to round it out and really made it happen for his clients. Here are the skills that I think were really, really important to him. First, salesmanship. I already told you how he got those first jobs. He could sell himself. And he knew, the smiles and the frowns and things like that. He understood. And he had superb artistic and drafting skills. So people could see what his vision was. And then there's the drawing upside down. He knew he was in a situation where people would be uncomfortable with him simply because of his skin color. And he figured out a way to make it easier for them to see his vision without being uncomfortable. These skills, combined with his growing mastery of period revival styles and his style trademarks, which were elliptical staircases, curving lines, and people who wrote about his houses talked about a relaxed overall feel in his houses, and those became his trademarks. So we should think of him as a master of home design. Let me go back to that other one. And while I'm calling him a master of home design, he designed many large buildings too. which I'm not showing you today because I only have 15 minutes. And there are whole books about both his houses and his large designs. Churches, schools, hotels, office buildings. He was even part of the design team that built Los Angeles, LAX's, the airport's, that spaceship-style theme building, even though that is not his personal design. He was just part of that. I have read that there used to be, I think it was an Esso filling station on the airport grounds that he did design, and it was all steel, and it had a round roof and little round pods underneath it, and these architects who were writing about it were very excited about that, but it has been torn down, so we can't see that. And Williams loved new materials and new things you could do because of them, so that would have been cool to see. And I think he was able to develop all that mastery, not only because he loved the homes and the buildings and the new materials, but because he did develop these necessary skills. So he applied them widely. Cordhaven was a southern colonial mansion with the big pillars and the gracious feel and the big portico on the front. But Williams was also fluent in, and you'll see all these different styles when you go places that have many of his works, New Orleans style, Mediterranean revival styles, Italian, French, Spanish colonial, Tudor, and Georgian revival styles. Whatever people wanted, he was familiar with it. Remember those 5 art schools he went to, and he could do it. But if you want to indulge and have fun looking at many, many lovely houses, I recommend you go to the U.S. Modernist website and click on the Paul Revere Williams section. It's amazing. There are hundreds of pictures there for over all 50 years of his career, and you can just look and look and look. So I'm going to show you 2 more specific houses today, and they're modern ones. They're not period revivals. Here's the first one. I'll go the right direction. I think I get the hang of this. This is the home he designed for himself and Della in 1956. It's modern. It has modern at the time steel construction techniques are used in it. And I bet you anything that at the back it opens up onto a beautiful garden, a beautiful terrace. He and Della had lived in a regular already built house for the past 30 years. And finally in 1956 he was ready to build himself his house. And that's what he built. Okay, and next one, here's another modern one that has some interesting story stuff to it. This is Frank Sinatra's house. Actually, it's his bachelor pad from 1955. It is renowned as a site of many wild parties. Sadly, it has been demolished. But the story is that Frank Sinatra loved gadgets too, and he asked Williams to fix him up. So this house not only had a top-of-the-line audio system, it had a button Sinatra could push to roll his bed out onto the patio. Bachelor pad. That's just so yes, okay. Anyway, so trying to wrap up all of this in the time I have available. Paul Revere Williams' personal life. He had 1 career, 1 marriage, 2 daughters. He retired in 1973. He died in 1980, survived by Della, his daughters, and grandchildren. He had 1 career, more than 3,000 structures built in a half-century of work, mostly in Southern California, but stretching across the continent to Washington, D.C. and Howard University, which elected him to his board of trustees. He served on many local and national boards and commissions, appointed by mayors and presidents. He donated his architectural services to schools, churches, and nonprofits. He received many awards and honorary degrees. His architectural firm continued in business for several years after his retirement. There's just so much. But here's where our part of the story goes on. This is one that got away. Here's a design that he drew that never got built. This is one of 2 different exterior treatment renderings he offered with a set of plans he prepared for Dr. Theodore and Beatrice Borders of Fort Wayne, who ended up building a different Williams design. And Roberta Ridley will be your guide to that part of the story.
What exciting times that we are actually taking this story and traveling across these United States. And hopefully I will bring it to you in such a way that you can see where you too can identify with it. Because now, along with the property in question, we have the genealogy of the people who actually requested this house to be built. This is, I want to make sure I go the right way. Here, a second. Where did she go? Okay, there we go. Because we didn't get to do that. So I am Roberta Ridley, chairwoman of the African American Genealogical Society and the Indiana Landmarks Black Preservation Program Fort Wayne Committee. There are many stories to be told, and we intend to find as many of them as we possibly can to share this type of information with the public as a whole. Dr. Theodore and Beatrice Borders are to be recognized first and foremost for their tenacity in building their dream where they reside, which was Fort Wayne, Indiana. They were very successful individuals who went about the business of building a career for themselves in order to be able to function in whatever community that we went to, that they were in. You have before you Dr. Borders himself and his wife Beatrice and the marriage record. This is a genealogy story as well as a building story. You have before you to witness, yes, they were married. Yes, they are identified as colored, and they have taken the period of time black as well, and names such as colored, Negro, black, African American. What am I? But so you know we are identified as such. And you're asking, what does this have to do with a building story? We want to notice in this next slide that we have a warranty deed. This is where Dr. Borders and Beatrice purchased the property that is located at 1802 Nevada. And for those of you who drive down Anthony Boulevard, once you cross the bridge, you immediately notice a different type of housing. There's absolutely no question about it. As a young child, I remembered I didn't really know what it meant, but it was crossing the bridge, and we're getting ready to cross the bridge, and so you start looking like this at all the houses that are there because they were beautiful, beautiful homes. There's much to be learned if you do your own local genealogy about housing. And when you look at it, always keep in mind the term redlining. The property located at 1802 Nevada was vacant. It was owned by a couple. And when you get a chance to look at this information up close and personal, you see that Joseph Peter Smith and his wife, that was Dolores Woodard Smith, owned that property, and they had intentions on building there themselves. They, however, were offered cash for the property. Well, if you don't have a nice house right now, you don't have the money to build a house right now, and somebody hands you the cash that you're looking for right now, you're going to spend it. You're going to spend it, and they're going to take it. And that's what happened. They bought the property outright, cash on the dime. And ultimately, they built this fine home. And I would be like a teacher. I would like to ask how many of you have recognized that house and thought it looked a little different. I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you. I'm a storyteller, but I'm real about it. And you wonder how come. And the reason it's different is because Paul Revere Williams read I'm reading the note in the back. Paul Revere Williams built the house. Take a look inside. The woodwork in this house, and I'm quite sure someone will confirm that for me, is elaborate. It is very elaborate. It was high quality wood. I will not go into the architecture background of that because Connie has provided you with the focus of excellence that Paul Revere Williams had whenever he did the work. But because people lived there, I didn't want to take all the shots and put them out there. Some things must remain private. We have the Borders family, Dr. Theodore and Mrs. Beatrice Borders. And in that photo, we have Grandma Lillian Black and the two children, Theodore Jr. and Arthur. We're going to start talking about the genealogy because there's a lot that I have to talk about. In this particular census, 1940 to be exact, the genealogy attached here is Beatrice's father, Henry Black. You will note that I have highlighted, and hopefully you can see it well, that he identified himself as Indian, Native American Indian. The census taker took the liberty to indicate that he was a Negro. And the liberty, and that liberty is taken in a lot of different ways, and it doesn't matter what your culture background is. Trust me, I've done a lot. Not so good on the newspaper, but Theodore Borders was a Howard University graduate. He graduated from the School of Medicine at Harvard University. He went on to acquire, we'll hold it right there. He went on to finish he did his internship at St. Louis, not Howard University. I'll get back to that. I was just going to mention it. But he did his internship in St. Louis. After he came out of St.
G. Phillips.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And he did that at Homer G. Phillips. And that school is still down, but I think it's in partnership with someone else because they didn't do a good job building that, and they also had a problem having a hospital where they would have African American doctors in the hospital. We'll get to that part. I'm introducing some parts of the family. Albert Henry Borders. That is Dr. Theodore Borders' father. He's kind of in and out of his life picture, but he's still very much involved. He did sign up for the war effort. This is after World War I, but just showing that he's also living in a different area. What I'm finding is that Dr. Borders was born in Rome, Georgia. He was from Rome, Georgia to Omaha, Nebraska to Fort Worth, Texas, St. Louis, for his work. That man moved across this country as though he had a jet airplane. And if you've done any genealogy, you know that it's awfully hard to fathom how did these people get from one place to the other. They were getting around. Trust me on that. So, census is always involved. One of the things that I observed in doing the census, why is it pertinent to my story? Dr. Borders' family is listed different identities. He is listed as mulatto, and if anybody doesn't know what I'm saying when I say mulatto, please show a hand there. Don't be ashamed because this is genealogy. But generally speaking, it does refer to a person who is of both black and white culture background, European, Caucasian, black. However, they also identify Native American and white as mulatto, depending on the pigmentation of the skin. They also identify mulatto, Native American, Anglo, Caucasian, and Native American. In this particular case, looking at the different censuses, it does show that he is the majority of the time identified as mulatto. Others says either colored or black. And one of them says he's white. I just gave you snippets to know that, yes, I did in fact look up each and every last one of these documents and compare the information that I have shared with you. We go back to 1870 following his family. His family is to be recognized. His background is not just happen chance that this individual accomplished the things that he did in these United States. He comes from a hard-working family, intelligent people, very progressive in their attempts to become active citizens in these United States. We want to take some attention to the fact there is a story of bondage associated with him. That story of bondage is in relation to Dr. Borders' grandfather, who is Griffin Borders. Griffin and Levick are brothers. They were the property of Abner John Hopkins Borders, and they were very skilled people. Anybody, anywhere, on any timeline since 1836, I believe is the correct date. I can verify any questions later about specifics that you may have. That's a big house. That's a big house that they built. Griffin and Levick built this house for enslaver John Borders. And they recognized the skills that these individuals brought to the table. And they put those skills to work. These individuals, Griffin and Levick Borders, built homes from Georgia to Alabama to Arkansas, and who knows what else in between. But they were highly requested to build these homes. They didn't just build homes, they built furniture. They built furniture. This is a sideboard. Excuse the crooked stuff. The pages were folded, and that's what they sent me. It is a sideboard slab that was built in 1860. Please note, there is very good detail on it. This table still exists. It is on display. And we are noticing that, you know, there's a little genealogy as far as the enslaver is concerned, Mr. John Borders, and the fact that these individuals were highly respected by the enslaver. I can assure you that he made a little money off of this situation, but he also promoted them. And we find in other work that I have looked at, again, contained in the research material, that he recommended and he was asked for these individuals to do the building of their homes. At the end of the Civil War, 1867, they already have a storefront where they are selling their handmade furniture and accepting contract. It does indicate, I won't go back and forth, but it does indicate on the census record of 1870 that he has a property value of $500 and a material or financial on hand of $300. Do the math. You know how you go back and you look and see what that's worth today. And for an African American person of that particular time period to have property that has value of such, and he's also raising timber on that land. He's not doing crops except for what's necessary personal. He's raising timber on that land, and he has a storefront. This is something that any child who paid attention to what their parents were doing should be very proud of. And if you are the great-great-grandchild of that person, even more so. I could do a whole 2-hour program on the Borders family. I can assure you that based on the time period and when Dr. Borders began his trek to go to college, information shows that he worked as a shoeshine boy. He worked in a hotel doing whatever services were necessary as far as that was concerned. He did whatever was necessary to come up with whatever money that it took for him to go to school. He went to Howard University. He had an uncle that also attended Howard University. That uncle was very involved in whatever he was trying to accomplish. His family moved from Georgia to Fort Worth, Texas, where he did whatever labors were necessary, again, to continue being able to get his college education and ultimately to get the title of doctor. I have here that you can read easily on that poster on the side, because I know it's probably hard for you to read. It'd have to be like 3 times larger in order for you to read it from your seats. And we can leave it up after the fact. However, Dr. Borders ultimately did get his doctor's degree. He did his internship, and he came to Fort Wayne, Indiana. He was the first full status family physician, African American family physician in Fort Wayne. He opened his practice in 1935. And opening that practice in 1935, he was able to do everything except admit a patient into the hospital, because it was not allowed. An African American doctor could not admit a patient. Imagine that this is the doctor that you've had that's taking care of you, and he's telling you what's wrong in a hospital that you need to go to, perhaps to have surgery or some other serious treatment, but your doctor can't admit you into the hospital to be taken care of. Another conversation over a bottle of wine. However, shortly after his arrival, Dr. Wilson arrived, and Dr. Wilson said, oh no. He was also a veteran. I should also mention that Dr. Borders went through an ROTC program at Howard University as well. And so he and Dr. Wilson came together and approached, the Fort Wayne powers that be and said, what's up with this? Of course, there's a legal name for that, but, And that changed. And at that point, and this is approximately, I think it's like 4 or 5 years after Dr. Borders, had been here practicing. And together, they were given the privilege to proceed with being able to admit patients into the hospital here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Now, it's right about that time that we realized that we still got a background story going. The background story is the house. What's going on with that? They were denied the right to build the house that Paul Williams designed for them. They said it was too big. It didn't fit the neighborhood. It wasn't, they protested. There's anger associated with this. This article that you see posted up there, for those of you who are close enough that have been able to read a little of it, Mrs. Borders gave an interview to the News and Sentinel on February 28th, 1994. This is a while before she passed away. She was a wonderful woman. She was a very kind woman. She was straight. She was respectful, but she was smart as a whip. And I do mean that. I, as a little girl, had the privilege of being able to help and be the help in the house of my grandmother, Roberta I, where I was able to serve tea to her and petit fours and things of that nice snacky lady stuff that you do at bridge parties and stuff. And yes, I got to wear my Sunday best when I would go to my grandmother's house and walk around with the silver trays to give them their refreshments, because it was the floral club, it was the bridge club, it was whatever club that was going on for a lady. And there is a collection for the Negro Women's Clubs of the United States that they are both listed in. She was a nice lady, but she was smart. And she told them, and she states this in this article, that she was a tax-paying citizen and she wasn't getting ready to back down. And that's where Paul Revere Williams comes into the picture. Her mother had made acquaintance with Paul Revere Williams out in Los Angeles. Beatrice had been in attendance to those meetings, and she met and became quite close to Della Williams, Paul Revere Williams' wife. And the next thing you know, Lillian made a phone call. Paul made some things happen. And when you drive down Anthony Boulevard to your immediate right, headed north at 1802 Nevada, is the result of that friendship. There's so much more to tell about this. So much more. I can't even, I know how much I looked at. I know what these ladies have looked at. You'll be able to read this. I hope that you will do. These census records. Am I going the wrong way again? Imagine that. Before you now is the granddaughter, Diane Borders Rossells. She is the daughter of Arthur Borders, who is the baby boy in the family picture. And she is not in the house, and she is married now. She works as a nurse in an Indianapolis hospital. But she couldn't be here because of the shortage of nurses and the demands that are on her in her position. But she wanted me to extend this thank you for all of you coming to show some interest in what her grandparents had fought to preserve. And at any given time, look her up on Facebook, give her a shout out. You know, did you or did you not appreciate it? I would appreciate it if you would do that, because she gave me quite a few hours of her time to share with me stories about her family and what she remembered about her grandmother. She didn't grow up here in Fort Wayne. She did come with her father during Mrs. Beatrice Borders' final years, and attended and graduated from Concordia High School, like me. And she is a wonderful person, and she is hoping that she will be able to retrieve some of the history for her to pass on to her children. She has 3 children, and learn a little bit more. This is not just an African American story. This is a family that embraced both their Anglo heritage, their Native American heritage, as well as their African American heritage. But they are the Borders family legacy at this point. I thank you for giving me your undivided attention. And I have some people that I would like to recognize that we have spoken about. And you will know that we have collaborated, talked to, gathered information from these individuals. The first persons that I would like to identify are Jordan Leopard and Molly Connor. If you would please stand, I'd appreciate it. These fine people they've had to deal with some strangers they didn't think they'd have to deal with along the way. They are now the occupants of 1802 Nevada. We wish that family legacy can be kept as a family, but I personally wish you a history as rich as what put them in that house. And I am sure that if Beatrice was here herself, she would wish you well and good fortune as she enjoyed with her family in that house. And I appreciate you supporting our effort here. If you have something you'd like to say, you're welcome to do so at this moment.
I mean, we don't have a whole lot to say other than we feel very lucky to be in that house, and that we just want to learn as much about the Borders as we possibly can, and we want to do something to honor them. So this is all really helpful.
I think Diane would embrace that. I think she would.
I actually met her very briefly. She came by the house. She was just looking at it, and she was like, "I used to live here," and I was like, are you one of the Borders?" And so I ran out to talk to her for a little bit, and so I'm glad I have her full name now. I was like, why didn't I get her information? And I want to talk to her and learn everything. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. Also associated with the property is attorney Noel Knox. There you are. Any comments you want to share with the audience?
It's been my privilege to work with 3 generations of the Borders family. And I assisted Teddy, Theodore Roosevelt Borders Jr., Dr. Borders' oldest son, as well as Arthur. I know Diane very well. seems recent to me. I think it's a nice representation. Very little has been done to the interior to change it from what Mr. Williams designed. But it has been my privilege to work with him.
Thank you. And the next person that I want to mention is the one and only Karen, Karen Richards. Are you there, girl? Yeah.
I am the Director of Development at ARCS, the Historic Preservation Organization, and first of all, thank you all. This has been a great partnership. You've done a fabulous job. This lecture is the second, in our series of fun and free lectures. So if you would like to come to our next one, I am really excited about it. It's called Healthy Historic Homes, and it's going to be given by a professor at IU's School of Design and Architecture. And for those of you who either live in a historic neighborhood, live in a historic house, sell those things, would like to live in one, it's a fascinating lecture about why you live longer and are more healthy if you live in a historic home, which is fascinating. He pulls together a whole lot of research, and if you're ever going to sell your house, it's great research as well, and you will then look at your home in a completely different way. That lecture is March 21st at 1 p.m. at Cinema Center. Our next one is April 18th. I don't know if Randy Carter's here, but Randy Carter is going to review his book on Lindenwood Cemetery and the architecture of Lindenwood Cemetery. That also is at 1 o'clock. And then the last one is May 16th at Cinema Center. That one's mine. And that is early Fort Wayne industrialists and their built heritage. So please come enjoy our lectures. They're free. And if you want to know more about them, our website is archfw.org, and you can go and get some more information and locations. Thank you so much.
How can it be an hour already? We just started, right? Please join me in giving these three wonderful people our appreciation. Because of the generosity of our presenters, we do have time for questions. I just consulted with my colleague, and there are no questions right now from our online audience. But if anyone in the room has a question, please stand and address it to one of our presenters, who I will ask to come to the microphone to answer, so that, one, we all can hear in the room, and the people online can hear as well. So, a question? Yes?
By any chance, did Mr. Williams build any more properties or buildings in Fort Wayne?
The question was, did Mr. Williams build any more houses, properties here in Fort Wayne?
That question actually has a nice, definite, and short answer. Not only is the Borders house the only Williams house in Fort Wayne, it is the only Williams building we know of in the entire state of Indiana. So it's very special. I found one other Williams house in Iowa, but he really focused on Southern California, and then most of his projects out of there were bigger buildings.
Yes?
I may be not the only person in here who says this, but I lived in that neighborhood in the 1950s. And I remember when that property was purchased, and we found out that a black doctor was, anybody else from in that neighborhood? Okay, anyway, was buying, that they were building a house there, and I didn't care, but there were protests, and there was some unhappiness in the neighborhood when this family moved in there. And every time I drive down Anthony, I think about those people and how wonderful that they came and were able to make some changes in our city.
So for those online, the comment in the room was one of our guests this afternoon remembers that property being purchased and the house being built, and how there was some unhappiness that an African-American doctor was moving in. Yes, sir.
I just want to sort of comment or reinforce what one of you ladies said about when you go up Anthony and you see this house, it looks different from everything else. When I first came to Fort Wayne to practice medicine here, I used to go to Parkview a lot, and I'd go up Anthony and then turn 20 State. And the first couple of years, every time I went up or down Anthony and I saw that house, I just thought of, I said, there must be some great architect that designed the house, because all these other houses around here don't look like, they just don't compare to this house. And I was starting to wonder if Louis Kahn had it. Because I said, this is a house, this is a real house, this is the kind of house I would like to have. But yeah, as you go up and down Anthony and you see that house, it is different.
I'm gonna take that one. Do you want me to? I think everybody can say, and if you're not saying it now because you can't really picture it in your head, if you drive down the street when you leave here, you're going to say, oh yeah. And it was modern in a lot of ways based on the architecture that was developing in the area. It's different. And remember, they also had an original drawing that was much larger than what that house was. That was one of the reasons they objected to it, because it was, they were told, Arthur told me that they told him that the house was too big and not suitable for the neighborhood. I'm not really sure about the square footage of all the houses. There's a few sitting around that are just as large or larger. There happened to be 2-story also. But it was all a part of them trying to prevent him from selling. You'll look in that article there about the, she gives some history about it. And Art even told me that a cross was burnt in the yard to object to them building there. The architecture is different. There was a type of architecture that was being focused on at the time, and that's another reason. But protests, and you paid money for the land, and you got money for the house to be built, what's your real reason? Yes, sir.
About the cross burning, I heard it was in the 80s or 90s, that recently. Do you know roughly when that happened?
I'm sure in my notes, I actually wrote it down. I'm that girl, I do that. And I don't even know that it only happened one time. So it could be that it happened more than once. But 80s, I don't think Art was here. I mean, of course, he'd know about it. He'd have been told about it. But I don't know the exact date. You give me your information, I can look it up. And it probably made the paper.
So they got with Mr. Williams, the Borders family.
Yes, sir.
So they compromised on what they wanted for that property.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yeah, they did. It wasn't an easy thing.
The property wasn't large enough for that drawing.
Yeah, did they sell off part of the lot when they didn't build the big house?
No.
I told you I could do this all day.
Okay, sorry.
So I'm just there's so much to talk about. This is because when you don't know, you don't know. Then there are people that would know, and if you were a child.
That lot was not large enough for that big.
For the 2-story?
Yeah, it was just,
Yeah, if it had been a 2-story.
But it was, I think that first one was much larger than the house that was actually built. And that one fits the site very nicely.
Well, I guess the question is, if they had wanted a second story on what they have, why would it make a difference if it could sit on top of what's there?
There, right.
I'm just
It
saying.
wasn't how many stories, the lot wasn't big enough
Okay.
for the
Can I
size.
stick my oar in the water, please?
Oh, Connie has something to say about this.
Okay, I have sat with and looked at those drawings that and the the renderings. They have the driveway and the garage going onto North Anthony, flat. And if you look at the property, that's a big hill. So I think it is possible that Williams was not completely informed about the elevations of the lot and how much excavation would have to be done to put what he designed on the lot, plus and that would be very imposing on that lot, and the frontage of North Anthony does not have many just garages facing it. So who knows where all of the objections came from or what they actually were, but there's also the matter of the fit of the drawing to the lot that might have been, we don't have any information that Williams actually came here to see it. And I don't know if they gave him a survey with elevations on it. The plat of the lot doesn't have any elevations on it. And it's unusual, this is an unusually hilly part of that street. So there's that.
What is it, North Anthony and what?
Nevada.
In Nevada.
It's the southeast corner.
I believe we have a picture of it too. We can go back to show the original photo. This is what it's supposed to be. Let's go back.
There it is. And this is looking at it from Nevada. And that, the little one, is looking at it. No, it's not.
That was the first one. The first drawing of it.
Oh, want me to go back to the first drawing?
Yeah, one more.
There.
There, that's the original.
And see how that's all flat?
How much bigger it's supposed to
That's
be.
the way it looks now.
No, this is not how.
Before it was scaled down.
Before it was scaled down,
Yeah,
but
that's the first one, and this is what it looks like today.
That's how it looks today. Oh,
Yeah.
Now that's a one-story on a basement.
like this scale down.
I mean, it's not a tiny house. It's a nice, gracious house, but
I'd have been mad. I'm just,
but this the lower right-hand picture, that's all the grass going down the grade to North Anthony, and that would have been the garage and the driveway with that first drawing.
Let me show the first drawing again so you can see it.
Wrong direction. I'm just there.
There we go. Please leave this so I can see it.
No, it's
It's about,
it's about 6 blocks up.
no,
Two.
from Lake.
Two from Lake, but from the bridge, quite a few. It's 2 blocks up from Lake. Thank you. 2, 3. It's something then Vermont, then Nevada.
Okay, we don't want
We have
to,
one more question.
sure.
One more question?
It just occurred to me, my devious mind, all that trouble about putting that house on that lot, it just occurred to me, as I go up and down Anthony and look at all those houses around me, they're nothing compared to that house. And I believe, it's just me talking, I believe it was just jealousy in the whole neighborhood because that house would diminish everything in that neighborhood.
had there been a second
That's human
story,
nature, to be jealous and envious and stuff like that.
it is. Yeah. There's no question about what I want to say, for a negative flow into all of it. They didn't want people of color across Lewis Street. Number one, okay? Number one, let's just forget everything else. They didn't want people of color across Lewis Street. Next, they paid cash for the land. Next, they had the credit and the money to be able to build the house. No bank, no mortgage company wanted to back that for them. These are all things that are documented, and we know it. I would have liked to have done a full program on what brings it up, You know, what brought it all up? Where did we go? Who was marching out there? And
Didn't I say that at the beginning?
yes, yes. And it's history. It's history. It is the history of redlining in this community that we all so politely walk around and act like, yeah. She lives there. Yeah, that's good. She had a neighbor that did not talk to her till the day she died. A neighbor who had a child that would come to her house and talk to her. The boy was very friendly with Mrs. Borders. And it was the boy that made his mom talk to Mrs. Borders. She was a lovely woman. I'm telling you, she was a lovely woman. I never got to talk to him, but I did get to talk to her. And I went to school with Arthur. So, I don't know about Arthur though. but we all grow, and we did. And so we were able to talk and understand some of the things that happened and that he went through. They protested. It is documented that they did that. They got I can't find the building permit. I can't find the building permit, Kurt. Kurt. I can't find it. I went downtown. I did all this.
We can work on that.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know their names, and I wouldn't be surprised if Paul Williams had his own builders that he worked with that maybe had something to do with who actually built, but the contractors did not want to work with them here. So we got protests for the land, protests not giving up financial assistance, not that they needed it, but they got it and they had it, so they did what they had to do. And ultimately they had the architect as well. And that house is still standing. Is your house comfortable, honey? You got any leaks going on out there? Okay. And I'm guessing you got a beautiful little family growing, and the next thing you know, they're going to be telling your story about this house. And it's going to be a part of a really nice book one day, I hope and pray. And I think that we can all understand why this is information that the community should know about, and why that house looks the way it looks compared to the other houses. There's some lovely houses down there. And they just expanded. Where's my guy? Krager, you want to talk a little bit about what's happened there?
Oh, the National Register listing. The house is within the North Anthony Historic District, listed on the National Register. But National Register nominations have a period of significance that's chosen. And it covers the time period when most of it was built. And when this nomination was done, the time period ended in 1940, I think. And so when that happens, even though there's a historic house within that historic district, it's not considered a contributing historic house within the historic district because it was built after a period of significance. So I've been working with Connie. We're working to amend the National Register nomination to make it a longer period of significance. So the Borders House and a few others within the district will also be contributing properties within the National Register district.
And justly deserved. And again, we have, you had a question, sir?
This is also related a little bit to the timing of Parkview Hospital located northeast. I believe Dr. Borders may have been the first African-American physician to be head of the staff of a local hospital. And certainly if you were for the nicer neighborhoods south of west of Lutheran, those were all subject to restricted, they had restricted covenants. They were shortly after they built various institutions. And I think Dr. Borders, he was a mover and shaker in getting Parkview Hospital.
Like I said, I could do this for a few more. It's when I came up here, I didn't bring a cute little manila folder. I had my backup team with me, and so we have a couple other things. I'll hang around for a little bit afterwards if there's anything that I can answer look at some of the things that I actually have in my book, I'm more than happy to share. Take it away, Kurt.
Thank you, Roberta. Once again, let's just give our presenters some thanks.